Hello. This video is going to focus on qualitative research and to give you an overview as we did with the quantitative research. Again, with qualitative research, that just gives you kind of an introduction to give you some ideas if you're looking for an area in which to do your research. But certainly you need to look further and learn more if this is a way of researching that you would like to pursue. The objectives in this short video are to define qualitative research and identify questions that can best be answered through qualitative research. What is qualitative research? Well, it's known by many different terms, and each of these terms has a little different way of doing research. Ethnographic, naturalistic, anthropological, field study, participant observations, case studies. There are many different terms and many different variations within the qualitative research paradigm. But overall, qualitative research seeks to understand phenomena in a natural context. With quantitative research, very often it's in an experimental setting with gathering data, doing a treatment, and seeing if the treatment is effective in a controlled environment. Qualitative research is not done in controlled environments. It's done in the natural context. And it focuses on beliefs, attitudes, perceptions, behaviors, the kinds of things that can't be readily measured. This is important to realize, and many researchers would disagree with me, so understand that this is my perspective. But I do not believe there's really a clear division between qualitative and quantitative. They're just different ways of going about the same sort of process. For example, in the quantitative research, numbers, quantitative data, really have no meaning. You do a mathematical procedure and you come up with a figure, but it's the researcher and the body of researchers who have given that figure meaning. You do a mathematical procedure and you get a p-value of 0.005. It's a number from a mathematical procedure, but it is researchers who have given meaning to that particular value. And so there's a little bit of qualitative perception that comes in the quantitative research. On the other hand, qualitative data is not just thrown out there. It has to be structured to get the meaning from it. So it has to be ordered. It has to be organized in some way. And in that organization process, very often you find yourself quantifying the qualitative data. So these two paradigms tend to interact very frequently. So let's look at what is data analysis and qualitative research. Actually, it's just a complex process that involves moving back and forth between the data and the abstractions, between inductive and deductive, descriptive and interpretive, going back to the literature, going back to the observations, going back to your analysis. And so it's this dynamic process of making meaning from the data. Qualitative researchers look for patterns, and I'm going to take you through one way of looking for patterns, which is coding data. In coding data, you go through and define themes from the whole of your data, and you connect them and you find meaning between them, and so you come up with interrelating themes. We'll go look at a little example. In the not too distant past, the Supreme Education Council asked the teachers in the K-12 schools if they would do action research, but they weren't really doing action research. So imagine with me that you go into the schools and you do focus groups or interviews and get this qualitative data on why teachers are not doing research. When we look at our data, we see that we've got answers like these. And we read through them and we think about them and we see the same kinds of answers keep coming up. In this particular set of data, I keep seeing time and interest and skill coming up. And so I'm going to use those as my codes. And then I'm going to go back through the data, and every time I see something that is about time or interest or skill, I'm going to mark it. I'm going to code it. Skills. I'm too busy. Time. When would I fit it in? Time. I'm not interested. Interest. It's too hard. Skill. I don't have the skills. Skills. I don't want to. Interest. I have too much to do. Time. They don't make me. Interest. So you can see that our data from all these different answers is beginning to fit a pattern, and themes are emerging by using this coding. And we could even use our codes to make frequency charts and have quantitative data that we can do statistical analyses on. Or we can just use the themes that are emerging to tell our narrative. This is just a picture that shows you a little bit about how you go from the big data through the coding, collapsing those codes. Frequently, you start off with too many codes, and the data is too bulky. And so your codes, you start seeing what your codes are really about as you go through the process, and you come up with these themes or patterns that you can clearly portray to your reader. I also provide in your resources a coded piece of data, so you can kind of see what a coded piece of data looks like. I also provide a link to, there are many software programs out there that can help you do the coding if you want to, coding or analyzing or interpreting qualitative data. And there's many software programs out there. They differ. You can find one that works for you. And so I gave you a list of them, a link to a list of software packages. And you can kind of look through there and see what technology can do to help you analyze qualitative data. So why themes? It's best to write a report with detailed information about a few themes than a general information about many themes. It has more meaning for your reader. Themes can also be referred to as categories. From these, you write a narrative description, a story to tell your reader to help them make sense of your data. In your story or your narrative, it's very helpful to use dialogue, metaphors and analogies, quotes to illustrate your most important points. Include multiple perspectives. For example, if some of your participants felt one way and some felt another, don't just go with the majority, but also include the other perspectives or the contrary evidence that you found in your context. Provide vivid detail to make your reader feel like they are part of the experience. And in qualitative research, your own feelings and impressions are an integral part of the study. In quantitative, the researcher is outside of the study. But in qualitative, it's all right. In fact, it's good to let your reader know what part you were in the study and how you felt in the study and your own perceptions. So this is an example of I talked about how important it was to do some visual representation. This is kind of a graphic organizer of a qualitative study, and doing these visual representations, these graphic organizers, can be very helpful in making sense of your data. So a quick review: what's the difference between quantitative and qualitative? The quantitative, the data is in numbers. The analysis is by statistics. It's usually presented in tables and graphs, and the researcher is external to the study. In qualitative, the data is in observations or open-ended responses. The analysis is through finding patterns and themes. It's usually presented in narratives and with visual representations, and the researcher is intimate to the study, is a part of the study. However, qualitative and quantitative data are alike in many respects. They both seek to answer research questions. They're both concerned with validity, which in qualitative is often called truthfulness, and generalizability, which in qualitative is often called applicability or usefulness. But both are concerned with being true and being useful. They also share the qualities of that they should be carefully designed, rigorously and ethically conducted, and thoughtfully interpreted. Thank you.